Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 6, Text 44. Chapter is entitled The Yadu Dynasty Returns to Prabhu. Tava Vikritam Krishna Rinam Paramamangalam Karna Piyusam Asadya Tyajanti Anyaspraham Jana Tava Vikriditam Krishna Nrinam Paramamangalam Karna Piyusam Asadya Tyajanti Anyaspraham Jana Tava Vikriditam Krishna Nrinam Paramamangalam Karna Piyusam Asadya Tyajanti Anyaspraham Jana Tava. Please repeat after me. Tava. Your Vikriditam. Past times. Krishna. O Krishna. Renown for men. Parama Mangalam. Supremely auspicious. Karna. For the ears. Piyusham. Nectar. Asadya. Having tasted. Tyajanti. They reject. Anya. For other things. Spriham. Their desires. Jana. Persons. Translation and purport by disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada disciples ki jai. Translation: O my dear Krishna, your pastimes are supremely auspicious for mankind and an intoxicating beverage for the ears. Tasting such pastimes, people forget their desires for other things. Purport. Anyaspraham or mundane, because on the spiritual platform, the pure soul thinks only of the Lord's pleasure and the Lord's service. Therefore, a pure devotee can never give up Krishna even for a moment. Although for Krishna's pleasure, he can give up the entire universe. Omakyaratimirangasya vinanjanashvaka chakshagannilitam yem tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadameham Dadate Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitan Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravari Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine Namo Mahamadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvase Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Nilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhya Jagannadaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vande Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodita Gaudodaye Pushpavanta Chitra Shandavatamanda Hare Krishna. So in this section, we can see how Uddhav is being empowered. Uddhava is a confidential devotee of Lord Krishna. So when Krishna is planning to depart from this world, from this universe, Uddhava is also wanting to depart. Is told to stay back in order to convey, in order to associate, in order to give his association with two sages of Badrikashram. Krishna, it is said, he went to many places during his stay in this universe. He satisfied all devotees. He satisfied Vrajavasis, he satisfied Dwarkavasis, he satisfied Madhuravasis, he satisfied Hastinapurvasis. He satisfied all the 16,100 queens, 108 queens. And he went to many other places as well and satisfied many other devotees. But one place he could not go, that is the sages of Badrikashram. So they wanted Krishna to be in their association. They wanted to associate with Krishna. But Krishna could not go there. So therefore he deputed his most confidential associate Uddhav to go and give his association to the sages of Badrikashram. And so third canto speaks about how Uddhav was empowered with confidential knowledge of Krishna and his pastimes and activities and Krishna's heart and Krishna's mind, and to have knowledge of all these things. Uddhav was he was having confidential knowledge of all these things. Third canto describes this as Paramam Sthiti, the confidential signs of Krishna. So Uddhav was knowing all these confidential details of Krishna. He was empowered to know all these things. And Uddhav, in this way, so he goes after Krishna disappears. He goes and initially he meets Vidura and empowers Vidura. Taking association of Uddhav, Vidura goes to Dhritarashtra and forcefully convinces him to give up material affection and take to Krishna consciousness. Later, after speaking to Vidura, he goes and speaks to sages of Badrikashram, and he gives his association to sages of Badrikashram. So in this way, so Uddhav is empowered. So the information which we have in third canto is about how after Krishna's disappearance, Uddhav goes and meets with Vidura, and then he goes on to Badrikashram. That is the information which is there. But there is only a brief mention about the Paramam Sthiti which he has gained. There is not much details about the Paramam Sthiti which Uddhav has gained in the pages of third canto. So we can get the details of that Paramam Sthiti in these pages of 11th canto. After 10th canto, the most elaborate canto is considered to be 11th canto. 11th canto is considered to be the most elaborate after 10th canto, which practically speaks about the whole content of which is centered around Krishna's instructions to Uddhav. So in this particular verse, we can see that it is being explained that the Krishna's pastimes and Krishna's activities and the topics about Krishna are so intoxicating, are such an intoxicating beverage. Producing some feedback, someone can adjust it. It is such an intoxicating beverage. So by tasting such topics about Krishna, one can forget their desire for other things. One time, one devotee was explaining, giving an example. He was giving a very graphic example. Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj now is. So he was giving an example. He was saying that, we speak about this verse now, Param Drishtva Nivartate in Bhagavad Gita, famous verse. So only when we get a higher taste, we can give up lower taste for material things. Generally, in our conditioned state, we tend to engage ourselves with spiritual activities, which we have to do. There is no doubt. Otherwise, it is said, idle man's brain is devil's workshop. So we have to consciously endeavor to keep our mind engaged in spiritual activities, unless and until we consciously endeavor to engage ourselves in spiritual activities. Naturally, by nature, it will go towards material activity. If we only try to float, we'll not stay at the same position. We'll go downstream. So we have to put an endeavor to go upstream, which is tiresome. But then what can be done? In order to stay in the same position or in order to go a little ahead, we have to put that extra endeavor to go ahead. So we should engage ourselves in spiritual activity. So, there is no doubt about it. At the same time, that is not sufficient in itself. Neither that is a remedy. At our sadhaka stage, we have to do it. But eventually, it is explained, because even if we engage ourselves in spiritual activities, we keep getting tired sometimes. Our mind has a tendency to keep uh, looking out for matter, even among spiritual activities. Right? Just like it is said that if you go to a beautiful garden, if a fly goes to a beautiful garden is very beautiful. When we say it's a big garden, and in some small corner there is some dirt. So the fly, it keeps moving around in the garden here and there, here and there, here and there. But it can't taste honey which is coming out of flowers. It just keeps loitering around, passing time. But where it gets attracted, finally, when the dirt is seen, immediately it gets attracted there. That is the nature of mind. So similar is our nature also. No matter how much spirituality we may incorporate into our system, we keep moving around, loitering, but then we don't get to taste the sweetness of Krishna, and we look out for matter. And as and when we get to see matter above spirit, or otherwise, immediately our mind gets attracted there. That is the misfortune. So therefore, eventually, it is explained slowly and steadily. The remedy is to get attracted. The remedy for being detached from matter is to be attached to Krishna, which is also being explained in this particular verse. So the example which we were discussing is that Maharaj was saying that at that time, that if let us say for 2 days, continuous days, we didn't eat anything. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it may happen. It doesn't happen anytime, but it may happen. That let us say, we are traveling somewhere or something like that, and we didn't eat for a day or two. Very hungry. Here we don't get much experience of all these things, but because we always get prasad there by Krishna's grace. But I'm just saying, let us say it happens sometime. But for 2 continuous days or a day or two, for a day or so, we didn't get anything. We are very hungry. And then somebody comes after we go somewhere, and somebody comes with khichdi. With khichdi, and it is unfortunate that the khichdi is little spoiled. So if we eat it, probably it will spoil our stomach, but there is nothing else. At that time at least, and there is nothing else. So we tend to, when we are so hungry, we tend to eat that. Something is better than nothing. What can be done? But imagine if a plate of khichdi comes, rotten, little spoiled khichdi, and somebody else comes with the hot, puri, aludam, halwa, and just out of the pan, hot, and it is ready, and then with great affection one is coming in front of us. Then what do we choose? Obviously, the second one. So Maharaj was explaining, so we are hungry. And the rotten khichdi is material enjoyment. And somehow or other, the spirit soul wants material enjoyment, wants satisfaction. So it's looking for here and there. And then the rotten khichdi is there. It gets attracted to rotten, because our conditioned mind and senses are attracted to rotten khichdi, unfortunately. But then if someone has developed a taste for higher taste, then one can easily give up rotten khichdi. Is there any difficulty? If someone has taste for higher taste, then when someone has a taste for Krishna's topics, one can easily give up without any difficulty. Just like Bharat Maharaj, it is explained. The way he has given up, such a graphic example, the way he has given up material things was in such a despicable manner, he has given it up. Just like giving up, one doesn't look back after passing stool. One doesn't look back. In that way, he has given up material things. So it becomes so easy for one who has developed attraction for Krishna. So it's our. So how do we develop attraction for Krishna? Bhagavatam gives a strategy, gives a solution. It says, so one develops Krishna, affection, attraction for Krishna, then Krishna, having seen a devotee sincerity, he enters into one's heart and cleanses the desire for material enjoyment. So the whole mechanism is described in Bhagavatam. So by serving devotees, one develops attraction for Krishna. At the same time, even for serving devotees, we need a qualification. It's not that without qualification we can serve devotees. We will not be able to serve devotees without having a qualification. And what is the qualification for serving devotees? The qualification, by Krishna's mercy, we get association of devotees, it is said. So we approach Krishna sincerely and we pray to Krishna, then we get association of devotees. We get mercy of devotees. So it's a cyclic process. Therefore, very next to us, 2-3 verses later, Bhagavatam describes Nasta Prayasha Abhadesu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. So in order to qualify oneself, like we hear the example of Kardama Muni. So 3 things I was just thinking about. 3 things by which one can develop affection for Krishna, attachment to Krishna's topics. First and foremost is to serve devotees. And the second thing is what we are discussing right now. So just like Kardama Muni, he's a great practitioner, he's a serious practitioner, sincere practitioner of Krishna consciousness. So he wanted to renounce, but then he understood that I can't renounce without being qualified. So what is the solution he thought of? The solution he thought of is that I'll serve Brahmaji's instruction to be able to procreate. Brahma was in a desperate need at that time. Because Narad Muni came and he said Hare Krishna. Kumaras came, they said Hare Krishna. So Brahma was in a desperate need to procreate and create good progeny. So Kardama Muni was there and he wanted to help Brahmaji and engage in that service of creating good population. And because of Kardama, we can see later on, Kapila Muni had come and many other great souls had come. So Kardama Muni, so though he wanted to renounce, he did not do it immediately. So initially he followed instructions of Brahma. And in order to follow instructions of Brahma, he did sadhana, long penance, 10,000 years penance he performed. He performed a long penance of 10,000 years. So when Vishnu had appeared, so he prayed not for liberation immediately. He prayed to be able to, he could identify the material desires within his heart, and he prayed to be able to purify those material desires and practice Krishna consciousness, purify those material desires in a legitimate way, and go back to Godhead. So, Kardama Muni is described. Kardama Muni prays very clearly to Vishnu that Hata Medasa, he said, man of little intelligence, he says. So he knows it very well that I am not immediate, or of course is the most qualified, but he is setting an example that I am not sufficiently qualified to renounce right away. So it's my prayer that I develop sufficient qualification by serving instructions of Brahma, and by following instructions of Brahma, uh, uh, once my material desires are purified, then I will become qualified enough to go back to Godhead. But in order to serve instructions of Brahma, the point which we are trying to make is this, that in order to serve instructions of Brahma, in order to be servant, also one needs a qualification. In order to serve instructions of Brahma, he did a long 10,000 year penance. Next of instruction, the verse, 7th verse, it says that the topics of Krishna consciousness are like sugarcane candy. But in order to taste the sugarcane candy, a person who is having jaundice, he can't taste it with great eagerness. Because for a person who has jaundice, everything he tastes is bitter. Even sugarcane candy is bitter. So what is the solution which is offered? One should carefully and attentively chant Krishna's names. Kintu adarat anudinam. Carefully and regularly. Adarat means with great respect. Anudinam means regularly. So with great respect and regularly, one has to practice practice hearing and chanting of topics of Krishna consciousness. When one practices hearing and chanting topics of Krishna consciousness, then one becomes qualified. To serve Krishna's devotees as well. Like we see in the case of Brahmaji, Kardamuni, I mean to say. So Kardamuni became qualified, and very soon, because he has practiced penance, because he has practiced long sadhana, therefore, very soon he became renounced. Not only he became renounced, but in the course of his activities, he also gave birth to Kapila Muni, who is Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, who later on delivered not only Devahuti, but had brought auspiciousness for the whole mankind. Kapila Muni's instructions are eternally present for the mankind, for the mankind to take benefit of. When Lord Chaitanya and he was talking to Sachi Mata, he quoted instructions of Kapila Muni, just like Sachi Lord. It is explained. Chaitanya Bhagavan says that how Lord Chaitanya, he spoke to Mother Devahuti, Mother Sachi Devi, just as Kapila Muni had spoken to Mother Devahuti. So in this way. So the point which we are trying to make is that, so Kardam Muni, he accepted the instructions of Brahma, and he wanted to follow the instructions of Brahma, but in order to do that, he did a long penance. So Kintu Adarat Anudinam. So we get sufficient strength to serve devotees by being Krishna conscious. So without being Krishna conscious, we don't have sufficient strength to serve devotees, to associate with devotees. So even if we try to associate with devotees and serve devotees, even if we move around devotees, still we may find faults with them. Still we may have a materialistic perspective. Even if we move around devotees, still we may have a materialistic perspective. We may find faults with them, unless and until we are sufficiently Krishna conscious. So Krishna consciousness is the prerequisite a strong sadhana or a strong internal spiritual upliftment, internal spiritual consciousness is the prerequisite to be able to serve devotees effectively. So this is the second factor. Third factor is when we are moving around in this material world, we should give up, or we should try to endeavor to stay away from sense objects and bad association. Asat Sanga Tyaga, a Vaishnavachar. So the concept of bad association comes repeatedly. In Nectar of Instruction, 2 verses, Utsaha, Dhairya, Nistya, Tattat Karma Prava, Tattat Karma Pravartana, Sanga Tyaga. Jai Shri Gauranga ki Jai, Yashoda Damodar ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Sanga Tyaga. Similarly, the words before that, Atyahara Prayasascha present for Nima, Jana Sangascha, Laulyam, Jana Sangha. So the concept of staying away from bad association comes repeatedly. Lord Chaitanya, when he was told to associate with Prataprudra Maharaj, when he was asked to associate with Prataprudra Maharaj, immediately Lord Chaitanya, in order to set an example for everyone, for all time to come. Of course, Prataprudra Maharaj is a great devotee, no doubt. But in order to set an example for all time to come, Lord Chaitanya rejected at that time, rejected Prataprudra Maharaj's association. He says, Niskinchanasya Bhagavad Bhajano Mukasya Aramparam Jigavisho Bhavasagarasya. Yeah, the sloka goes. So he says that so one has to give up association, of materialistic persons who are attached to women and wealth. Stay away from one such association. So one has to stay away from, as far as possible, stay away from sense objects and to those who and to the bad association in the context of like Kardamuni himself, we were giving the example of Kardamuni. He did not stay for a long time with the family affairs. He stayed for a very short duration. On another example we can hear of is Priyavrat Maharaj. Priyavrat Maharaj is a very good example because he has practiced sufficient sadhana. In fact, he practiced so much sadhana that you are not wanting to go and take up kingdom and responsibility and all that. So 3 out of 12 Mahajanas, 3 Mahajanas had to come and talk to him. Can you imagine? Such an important agenda. Brahmaji himself, initially Swayambhu Manu came, Narad Muni came, they could not resolve. Then Brahmaji had to decide down. Sometimes the agenda is very important, we need very senior people. So Priyavrat Maharaj's agenda seems to be very important. So Brahmaji, all the way from his Brahmaloka, he descended down to Priyavrat Loka, whichever that Loka. So Manav Loka, Swayambhu Manu's Loka. So Brahmaji, just like we were discussing the example of Kardamuni, similar is the example of Priyavrat Maharaj also. Priyavrat Maharaj wanted to renounce, but he didn't have sufficient qualification. So Brahmaji came and he said, my dear Priyavrat, please, first verse he says is, don't be envious of Lord Vishnu. You don't think that you have some desire and Vishnu's desire is something else. And because Vishnu's desire is something else, therefore you become envious of him. No, don't be envious of Lord Vishnu. Vishnu wants this to happen this way, and if you do it, anyway, we can't barge into spiritual world. Spiritual world is not that we can make it ourselves. Zoom. It's not that doors are open for us. In order to enter into spiritual world, we need a qualification. So here Brahmaji is saying that in order to become qualified, you need to take up this service. And Vishnu wants you to take up this service. So please take up this service. So Priyavrat, despite all three Mahajanas and despite such a good sadhana, which he has practiced for ages, Priyavrat was contemporary of Uttanapad. And this is happening way after Uttanapad and then Dhruva and then Anga, Vena, Prithu, Prachini Barhi. After that, Swayambhu Manu had come to talk to Priyavrat. Generations he had practiced Krishna consciousness. Not a few years or few lifetimes according to our calculation. But generations he has practiced Krishna. Despite after practicing Krishna for such a long time, and after having blessings of all the three Mahajanas, Narada Muni also having compelled by Brahmaji, he also gave blessings. Swayambhu Manu didn't just give blessings, he had been pushing him. And Brahmaji gave blessings. Despite having blessings of all three Mahajanas, still the association of matter is so powerful. It is explained that he has become that his wife, what is her name? Barhishmati, right? Barhishmati, as far as I remember. He became like a hand-pegged husband of her. So, and he totally forgot Krishna consciousness because it is the nature of material association is so strong. So he totally forgot Krishna consciousness. And Brahmaji had to come again. Brahmaji remembered that how he received blessings. He received my blessings way back at that time. And it is I who pushed him to practice, to render this service. So now it has become my duty to go and remind him of Krishna. So Brahmaji again descended in order to remind Priyavrat of Krishna. The point we are trying to make is this, that the effect of material matter is so profound. So one has to be careful to stay away from sense objects and bad association. Asatsanga. To stay away from bad association and to stay away from sense objects. And then one practices devotional service in this way, then one gets a natural appetite to think about Krishna, natural eagerness to hear about Krishna. And that is the prerequisite, as it is explained. Prerequisite for Krishna to enter our heart and clear our conditionings, as it is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. So 3 points we were discussing. First and foremost is to serve devotee. And the example of Karta Muni and Priyavrat as well. And thirdly, even while during the course of our Krishna consciousness, we should be careful to stay away from bad association and sense objects. So when one practices these things, then one can naturally develop affection for Krishna. Some of us were attending Govardhan Yatra. Such sweet topics of Krishna consciousness. I was very despondent when I was leaving. I was thinking, such a pain, to leave. But then anyway, we are not qualified to stay also. So therefore we have to come back anyway. But then so such sweet topics of Krishna consciousness. And but the example is also given. We can actually release the topics of Krishna consciousness all the more. We can enter into the topics of Krishna consciousness all the more if we have a qualification. The example is given. Maharaj was giving example that we have a beautiful darshan here, Radha Gopinath, Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Prabhupada, Yashoda Damodar, such a beautiful darshan here. And then, the darshan is available for everyone. But imagine a blind person comes here. The darshan is available, but then he is not able to take darshan. Similarly, Vrindavan is available for everyone. in the sense that the Nitya Leela is going on. The pastimes are going on. Krishna's pastimes are going on. They're being explained also. Sorry. And they're being explained also. They're being explained also. At the same time, however, because we are covered by covering of material external energy, therefore, we are not able to enter into it. Just like a blind man, though the darshan is open, let us say some blind man comes in front of Nitai Gauranga here. The darshan is so beautiful. We have, especially if you come in evening, lamps everywhere, and right in front of us, Nitai Gauranga so beautifully dressed and served. But if someone is blind, the darshan is so beautiful, but they can't see it. Similar is our case. We are spiritually blind in that sense. But however, therefore we need to continue associating with devotees and continue hearing about Krishna. Sometimes, some drops of Krishna consciousness may enter in, seep in. Just like we had, some devotees might have felt Krishna conscious during the yatra. Personally, I was it was such a sweet experience to hear about Krishna and Krishna's topics. And some topics I never heard only. This time, Mukharai, never heard. Bachagaon, never heard. In fact, I was trying to look out Bachagaon, it is nowhere there. I did not find it. I was trying to find out a reference. Where is it? At least I didn't find it. It could be there. Surely it might have been there. But it is not a prominent place, I mean to say. It is only explained that Balram and Krishna and Balram, they brought the cows. Sorry. The Balram saw the cows running for the calves in Govardhan. That much is explained. But which place in Govardhan, that is. Some drops of nectar. But to be able to fully taste fully be able to taste the nectar in a way that as it is being explained in this particular verse, it's an intoxicating beverage. Karna Piyusham, intoxicating beverage for the ears, it is explained. Karna Piyusham. Karna means for the ears, Piyusham means nectar. Asadya, having tasted, Tyajanti means giving up, Anyaspriham, any other desires. So like that, so Tyajanti Anyaspriham. Karna Piyusham Asadya Tyajanti Anyaspriham. So having tasted such sweet topics of Krishna consciousness, one gives up material taste for any other topics. So it is explained in this way. So we hope that someday we develop such Krishna consciousness and taste for topics of Krishna consciousness. As we were discussing, followed by serving devotees, by regularly rendering, being Krishna conscious, trying to be Krishna conscious by rendering sadhana. And to stay away from material sense objects and bad association. We hope to someday, we hope and pray that someday we'll develop taste for Krishna's topics. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions, comments? We have a few minutes remaining. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.